content. So let's just dive into it if you're good with that, because you've already got such a good flow with what you're speaking. I think it's going to help people so much. So I'm Matt. I am the owner of Impossible Performance and a couple communities on School. And really, we work to build a global culture of strength where we're fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. But we started a second, totally free, always will be community on School called the Orion Collective. And what this is for, it's basically just a social space for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, people who are really driving forward the future of our society. And along with that, I wanted to do these little mini video podcasts, which I've actually never done before. We have the Impossible podcast, which is a big production thing on YouTube. But just to sit down and have these little authentic video call conversations, I wanted to jump on and provide these little insights for our members in the Orion Collective, because I couldn't really find a good just like social space for entrepreneurs and high achievers and high performers. And I think it's so important, and what we've already had some conversations about on that platform, because a lot of us don't always relate to the people in our day-to-day life, even to our own family members, as you brought up. And so one of the members actually said, she's like, I've always seen myself as like a stubborn lone wolf. And I was like, well, I think that honestly describes pretty much everybody in here. And that's why we built this community, was so that we could all be stubborn together, but maybe just a little bit less lonely, And so it's been a great collaborative place so far, with no pressures. Anybody can promote anything if they want, but really it's just been genuine social conversation, and that's been a cool thing to have. So along with that, I wanted to create these little. I'm calling them Nebula chats right now because it fits in the Orion theme. I don't know. We might change up the naming. If any of you guys watching have an idea for a name, let us know. But we are honored to have our very first guest, and Laila is just a powerhouse in the entrepreneurship space. She is a Canadian woman, and she has her own school community, which I will link to in the comments if you guys want to go in and check it out. It's a great business space for women, and she talked about a rebrand she did that just opened it up to all women across the globe. It used to be more Canadian focused. And so she did a total rebrand to open it up to all women, because she's passionate about helping women in this space. She has a massive HR background, and she has a phenomenal insight into leadership. And that's what got me connected with Laila, is her insight into leadership, which is a topic I'm also super passionate about. So Laila, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to connect with you, and thank you for doing this podcast. I wanted to kind of start out with what you were already talking about, which is this idea of how heavily your environment can impact can impact us in all four domains of performance, from mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And that will spill over to any entrepreneurship ventures, any leadership ventures, any personal ventures we have. So can you speak to that, on how you decided, hey, this environment is just not the right place for me? I need a new environment so I can start reinventing myself and stimulate that growth and find that path that I know I'm meant to be on.
That's a great question, and thank you for the introduction. That's wonderful. I think this is going to be a great mini series going, and I think that's going to be super valuable to people, like a little bit of snippet of things. Um, you know what? It's really comes to a place where people don't believe in you. People don't believe you can do anything better. People don't believe you're smart enough, you're capable. Your friends, your family around you, they're like, you have a minimum wage job, you should just stick to that. You don't need more. You should just get married, have kids, have a husband who will take care of you. And you're just like, what are we, 1950s? It's like, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
just like, what is happening here? And I just got very surprised that your own people around you, that's how they see you. And, I do speak four languages, and still that wasn't considered valuable. So moving away from Montreal, unfortunately, I had to leave everything and be like, you know what? There was something inside me that says you can do more and you can do better than this. You don't know how, but it was so strong. And sometimes those messages from whoever it's coming, you know what I mean? That voice, those whatever it is. I came to Vancouver, and that's where I found a community and a support where people's like, you know what, we got you. And some people are my employers when I start working, and there's like, you have potential, you have lots to give. You're great at communication. You're great with people. And I was always told the other way around. So those popular beliefs, you actually believe it because since you're little, they're telling you you're not none of that, and that impacts how you see yourself, right? So I would say that's how it started. And going back to school multiple times, which I do believe education is key as well, to open your mind, to develop that critical thinking for yourselves. And anything you learn will be a skill that you can sell back. And entrepreneurship is about learning and growing and being in those safe spaces as well to develop entrepreneurship. I'll tell you, when I went to do my business degree, I joined it. Basically, it was a hands-on project, really, and I built 3 startups. So this incubator project-based learning was actually more valuable than sitting in those. I did sit in those lectures for like an hour, just like, oh my god, this is boring. I'm not learning anything, but you are learning. You know what I mean? But creating those, I think we need to teach people to be entrepreneurs, and I think that's what it's lacking in education in schools, right? We teach you to get a degree. You're good at a psychologist. You go in trades. You're a great plumber. Go out there and get the job. But we're not teaching you, how about that skill you turn into a business? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
I agree 100%. Entrepreneurs, and actually, it's funny you say this because we just recorded a podcast on the Impossible podcast with a guy who is in Ohio doing federally funded work to. It's called the Grit Project, and he goes into rural schools and helps kids build hope for the future. And he does that by figuring out where their interests lie, what their strengths are, and then how do you align those things with industry need. And encapsulated in all of that, they have entrepreneurial education in there. Not that everybody's going to go out and start their own business even, or become a titan in the entrepreneurship space, but having the skills of entrepreneurship and the drive of entrepreneurship is, I think, one of the best skills you can have coming into any workplace environment these days, because we are looking for people. Any company is looking for people who will drive innovation, drive growth, drive success. And if the company's not looking for that, they're probably not going to have a super bright future. But I know so many companies that are looking for that right now and striving for that. And that's a skill that will apply to any drive you have in life. So I'm really glad you brought that up because it's so powerful. Was this entrepreneurship, this drive that you've had, was this something you've always had for as long as you can remember? Was it something you discovered along the way? What led you to this pursuit in life?
It's something I always had because okay, so, and I'm in HR, right? So I got to be mindful how I frame things. But um, I just never really, I was like, I don't think I fit the mold.
Mm.
And I tried, and I'm trying. And I just always felt like and also I'm a very creative person. I'm 90% artistic, right? So with my hands, I create. I I always build and created things since I'm a little kid too. I paint, I draw, I do all these things. And then when I did Splish Splash handmade products in my school at that time, so the idea was like the business prof, because business profs are the way they are. They come and say, okay, this for this semester, you have 1 week to come up with an idea. The business, you got to create something new. You have to make it with your own hands. You can't buy something you already made. You have $300 budget. It's like how do you build a business with $300? But they taught us that they taught us that first you use all the skills you have that you're capable of, and go learn something else that you don't know, and manage to build a business that you don't have multi-million dollar, and you don't sell your car, you don't mortgage your house. We don't do that. We call it the lean startup model. And that's how I started. And then I was like, well, the only thing I knew how to do was like I paint, but I'm not going to do that. And I make products for myself because I have a sensitive skin.
Mm-hmm.
I've been diagnosed with PCOS the last few years, so I have a metabolic hormonal condition that impacts my skin. So I always made stuff for myself, but I never cared to sell it. And I, I pitched the idea because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And the prof said, yeah. And then next thing you know, the whole semester plus other courses, but I was building a business, I made the products, and the final had to present our project was they opened a market. It's like, you're going to go at this market, you're going to sell your products. We got to put all the students there all day. You're like, are you serious? So I had to make massive products and show up. And actually, surprisingly, I sold out. And this is where my prof was like, Laila, you have a really good business. People like the story, like the product, and you're just a natural to it. So why would you not pursue it? I was like, that's just too much work. Say that to a prof. business, what? You're literally saying you're spending out money? What kind of business person are you? Remind me, I had like 6 courses, okay? Now they put me in a competition. So being in that incubator space where it was a safe space to try things, do your market research, test the products, doing your business plan, you had this space where people were there to guide you, teach you, and show you. So kind of build confidence. You build your confidence as you go. And I think that's what's missing right now is that space where it's safe for you to come and try. And if it doesn't work, that's okay, but you tried it and you learned from it. Why did I fail at that? What happened? Oh, I didn't, maybe I didn't market it well. My service or product I was selling, it wasn't resonating with my audience. How can I improve it?
Yeah, and I love that approach, and I like how you talk about you had a safe place to fail. That's something that is so needed, not just for us as adults and entrepreneurs, but it's needed for kids in school, like we talked about earlier. We have to learn, and going back to that podcast I talked about, he talked about how the traditional grading model is set up in such a way that if you fail, there's really no coming back from that. If you fail drastically on a big test, certainly at collegiate level, you're likely going to fail the class or at least perform very poorly on paper, when really that doesn't have to be the end of the story. And I think it's so important, beyond business, just in day-to-day life, to learn to what we say it as embrace failure because of the opportunity inherent within it. And if you start to view failure not as, oh, I'm broken, I'm messed up, I'm defeated, there's something wrong with me, I probably shouldn't try again in the future, rather than viewing it under that model, if we can flip the script on it and view failure as, man, this really sucks. I hate that I failed. Like, it doesn't have to feel good, but if we can transition from that feeling to then, what can I learn so that the next time I find myself in this situation, I'll be able to write a different story. And that is the critical piece that brings us from that traditional grading model setup to, hey, failure's okay. Like, it sucks. I want to avoid it. I don't like failing, but I know that when I do fail, I can overcome it. I've overcome failure before. I learned and grew. And actually, a lot of times we look back on that failure somewhat fondly because what it taught us and the direction it gave us and the path it put us on going forward. So I'm so glad you bring up that concept on failure. I think it's huge for kids, for adults, for especially young and new entrepreneurs. And I think that's, again, what's really cool about school is it's a space where you can fail. You can, mess up and do something wrong and just change things around and figure it out. The amount of times we've adjusted our advertising, our marketing, our funneling, or even down to our pricing, just to try to play around and figure out what works, what doesn't work. And it's just such a cool space to be able to have that safe space to fail. And that kind of transitions us into one thing I've noticed about your content that you are really dialed in on and can speak really well to, that I think a lot of entrepreneurs, definitely including myself, struggle with, is this idea of self-care and keeping yourself in a good space, keeping yourself healthy, taking care of yourself and your needs so that you are in the very best shape to be able to give to the people, your customers, whoever it is you're working to serve in life. Could you expand on that a little bit for us? Because for me, I definitely come from the breed of, I will work, and I don't care if I push myself to total exhaustion, I'm going to make this happen. And while that can be a productive place to be sometimes, it pushes you to a place where where you end up burning out or getting filled with anxiety over things, or you end up not getting to the ultimate goal you want to. And so that's a work I definitely need to improve in my own life. But what's been your perspective on that kind of approach?
That's a great question. And I like that you bring this up. And I'll let you in it a little secret.
Hmm.
I'm one of those person too. Don't get me wrong. And when you're an achiever, there's something in you that just like, you know what, I'm going to show the world that I can do things and I can do this. And you want to prove yourself that you can do it. And I tend myself to push myself too much, I have to say, hence where I'm at right now. But self-care, it came through because in the business school, I built my Splish Splash handmade products. And now I'm selling my products like in retail stores,
Oh, that's
smaller
awesome.
scale. I had the opportunities to be bigger scale. I was approached at Walmart twice. I said no. And I can come back to that because there's values into that. But the thing about self-care, this is what also leadership is about. When you're a leader, it's not necessarily a title, it's how you show up to others, right? Like when we teach these kids how failure, it's okay to fail because you're going to be learned. It's not the end of the world, right? But that's where leadership comes in. As a leader, your role is to lead, support, coach, and mentor, and to uplift people and not make them feel bad, right? That's the whole idea of leaders. And what happens, because I work with a lot of executives, because also I'm an executive coach. That's where I got my postgrad, and I've been in HR for 15 years. So I work with a lot of leaders, and the burnout happens where you're misaligned, you're overworked, and you've lost touch with yourself. Meaning, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. So this is where important, where taking some time for you to yourself. That's why at least the 30 minutes, I know I do it, and I need it. If I miss a day or two, I can feel it. My 30 minutes a day for me is taking a bath with lavender essential oil, a candle, and piano music. And that's my space where it's my 30 minutes. It's quiet. There's nobody. I'm by myself and I relax and I'm not thinking about anything. So everybody has to find that outlet to take care of yourself. If you're not healthy, you cannot lead anybody. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, how'd you run a business when you're on the floor?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And that particularly that last line, we get so focused, and I know I'm this way. I get so hyper focused on making sure every single aspect of our business is checked off. All the T's are crossed, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. Every little thing is functioning exactly how it should. But it's so easy for me in pursuit of that to lose sight of my own life and my own health, and to actually sacrifice that for the business. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's just naturally how a lot of us are going to be wired. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but like you say, having that dedicated time, or at least just a dedicated practice, like you talk about with the bath. It's kind of funny you bring that up. Mine is actually very, very similar, but in a very different direction. So I have a cold plunge. Actually, I just got out of the cold plunge before I hopped on this call. So I hop in a bath that's 40 degrees, and I am in constant pain, and I wouldn't say suffering, but it's definitely a challenge. The reason it works for me though is because when you're in 40-degree water, or at least for me, I cannot focus on anything else. It forces me to go totally internal, maintain my breath, and I am only focused on that moment and internal to myself. And so what I found is that's an incredibly powerful self-care practice for me, because outside of that, in pretty much every situation, I really struggle to really step away from the external and come more internal. So putting myself in situations where like I really don't have a choice but to do that is huge for me. And then also being an athlete, there's tons of recovery benefits for it. But I come out of that tub and I just feel totally reignited, rejuvenated every day. So I think it's important for people to know you got to have some sort of self-care practice, and one that actually serves you and isn't going to tear you down. But at the same time, it can be a mini variety of different things, and you just got to find what reignites your spirit, what wakes you up, what makes you feel excited to come back to this work, not full of anxiety, not full of fear and stress and worry, but just full of excitement for the pursuit. You had another point in there that I really, really liked. You talked about alignment, and alignment is so huge and very difficult to fully 100% dial in, because where you talk about where burnout happens is when you're misaligned. And I think it's so easy for us to get into a situation where we think we're aligned with what we're doing, but we're burnt out and we're not doing it. A great example for me is I was once on a board for a amputee nonprofit. I'm an amputee myself. Lost my leg to cancer when I was 18. And so I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity to help people like me who are really struggling with this thing. I've been able to make some decent strides and overcome in a lot of areas. So here's a great way I can help and give back. And it's a phenomenal organization. I would never say anything deprecating of them. But for me, about 6 months to a year into it, I just felt totally burnt out on the whole thing. And it was because my personal pain points in life are not actually associated with being an amputee. Yeah, being an amputee is challenging in certain ways. It's not always easy. But for me, that was not the thing where I felt the most. That was not where I was in my darkest time. For me personally. Some people it is, and it's great that they can do that work. But so I wasn't actually aligned with the people I was really trying to help in life. And when I realized that, I stepped away from it, got back a ton of time that I could put into something I was more aligned with. And it's worth going down that process of really trying to break down and figure out what is it that actually, like we say, sets your heart on fire, ignites your soul with passion. That's why our logo has the flame in the middle of the heart on it. Because even within our own business, I love so much of what we do. But it's interesting, the podcast is the favorite part of what we do, and now school is starting to catch up with that because of the connections. But I'm not passionate about the intricacies of the media production, or how to flow conversation. What I found out is, like, by going through this, I'm not even passionate about the video work or the editing or things like that. I am passionate about telling stories, and I think that's really what our business has become uniquely good at. And that's something that, when I'm dialed into a really good story like we are right now, I could do it forever and feel like I would never get tired of it. And that's a really powerful piece when you find that perfect fit. It's not always easy, and it takes lots of repetition, lots of practice, lots of failure, and lots of micro adjustments to figure out where that true underlying piece is. But when you find that piece and find what am I truly aligned with, what is really my purpose in life, it's a powerful thing that when you get into that and find that fit, it's definitely helped me avoid burnout in a lot of cases.
Totally. And that's the thing about being aligned, being intentional about what you choose and what you want to put your energy in. There's some that will give you energy and some that will actually drain you. So by realizing that, you actually gave yourself a couple years back, right? Like,
Yeah.
it helps a lot. And also, when you're passionate about something and you're more dedicated, it just flows naturally. It's much easier, right? It's not difficult. It just comes and you just do it and you enjoy doing it. It doesn't, it energizes you. And I think that's what leadership also is about. Sometimes leadership, everybody thinks that, okay, you have this title, you expect it to work 16, 20 plus hours a day. I sure do those because it's part of the deal. But also, you kind of also lose touch a little bit. I've worked with a lot of people where it's like, I haven't seen my kids for 2 weeks. I've been traveling for 30 days. I haven't seen my wife. It's like, what are we doing? Is that even so? We are putting our leaders in situations that, yeah, we need you to run the business and the operations, but also we're not giving you the ability to have that downtime to rest so you can actually be a better leader, and doing things that might be misaligned because now you're missing out on really important things. And I've learned from a lot of executives that I work with, they told me, it's like, Layla, whatever you do, uh, make sure that you focus on family and friends, because the time you lose, you will never gain back. And they said, we learned it the hard way. I said, it's funny you say that because you've been traveling for 2 weeks and I've been traveling with you these past 2 weeks. So what are you saying? It's like, that's what I'm telling you. As a young, like, being younger, basically, I don't want you to become like me. So you gotta, like, even myself, you learn from having those conversations. And that's also part of entrepreneurship. There's this idea that you have to constantly work and burn yourself out and do long hours and all these things. And you have to be able to pause. And you have to also be able, as a leader, to talk to other leaders to get that support. When they say it's lonely at the top, I can tell you it is, because I work with these people and they have that safe space. So your HR, you're the safe space. When they're having a meltdown, they call you.
Yeah.
When they need somebody to hold their hand, they will call you. Yeah. When they're going through a divorce, a challenging, they have a sick child, they lost somebody, they're having cancer. They have nobody to speak to because they can't talk to their colleagues necessarily all the time. They might feel judged. So having those communities, like you say, like school, this will give you an outlet, a safe space for you to be like, hey, you know what? I'm really struggling right now. Am I the only one feeling like this? Is this normal? And as a leader, for you to reach out and ask for help, that's very challenging, but it's probably the best thing you can do, because by doing that, you might be helping somebody else who might be in a similar situation.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is a powerful, powerful message. And you're right. We get into situations where it's so easy to get caught up in the work, even for noble reasons. We tell ourselves, I'm doing this to secure my family's future. I'm doing this for my kids so they have a good life. Those are all very noble reasons. But we've got to remember, well, if the point is for our family and for our kids, we got to actually, we have the opportunity to take time dedicated to that now. I had a moment with I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she is just, oh, if I try to go too deep into it, I'm going to start crying. She is such a bright soul for life, and she lives so passionately and does not give into a lot of fear, and I think a lot of 2-year-olds are that way. But it's a lot of the work I do is to build a good life for her. But what I got to realize is, like, I can't sacrifice all the opportunity I have with her now in order to get to some future that we just never know for sure if we have. Anything can happen at any time. So the other night I was actually able to watch her for about 2 hours actually while my wife was working, and we have to take shifts a lot of times. But I said, you know what? I'm going to put the phone totally away, computer totally away. I am just going to be solely focused on her. It's just going to be her and I. And it was the most amazing experience. She has a little indoor bouncy house thing. It's really fun, and she loves to get thrown around and that and stuff like that. And then we actually came into the gym, and she picked up an 8-pound dumbbell. Now, granted, she only weighs 27 pounds herself, but she struggled with it at first, and she couldn't do it. And then she got up and she looked at me, and it was one of these critical points. And I just said, no, no, try again. I know you can do this. And I really felt she could do it. And she got back down, and she had to roll the dumbbell around, then up having to put it on its side. But she figured out how to lift it and lifted it totally off the ground. And the look on her face when she did that was just so much immense pride and joy. And it was another one of those moments for me as a father where I was like, this is something I have to make sure to foster as highly as everything else in my life, because moments like this is what's going to set the course of who she is for the rest of her life. And so that was an opportunity I had now to share in that time with my daughter. And it doesn't have to wait for 20 years when we think we'll have made it and everything will be bliss. We have those opportunities right now, so we have to take them when we get that chance. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And
That's really amazing that you allow her, you create that safe space to be like, you looked at her and she couldn't do it. It's like, try it again.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't say, well, you know what, you can't do this or whatnot. You went and tried again. And what I heard that what was, I think is beautiful is you took that time. So you were in the moment and you enjoyed the moment, which you'll never get that moment again, but you took the time.
Yeah. And that was so cool. It will always, that's one of the moments. There's a few moments I've had with her that will just stick in my brain forever, and that's one of them. And if I hadn't taken that time, if I had tried to do work while I was watching her, it never would have happened, and I would have lost that deep impact on my life from sharing in that space with a person who is actually the reason I do everything I do. So that's a great reframe, and I think that's probably a powerful form of self-care in and of itself as well. Just stepping back and allowing yourself to actually reap some of the victory from the seeds we sow.
Yeah, totally. Like, this is the thing about self-care. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. And like small moments like that makes it like it's part of your self-care. Self-care can be so many things to so many people. We all have a different outlet. We all have different things that we enjoy doing. And all these moments are, you're right, part of your self-care. Like you're enjoying life as well as much as you're building something, you're building your school community, you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker. Yeah, these are all the things you are. But there's also other moments that you can just be you and have those moments without all of that, right? All this stuff around.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm also a father, and that's a huge priority for me, and something I hope that I never take for granted. So thank you for guiding us in that direction, and thank you for this conversation too. This has been really awesome, and I'm gonna have to We're gonna have to talk about maybe getting you on our full production podcast someday for a full discussion, because it's just been, there's so much to learn from you. You've got such great energy and insight. But before we go here, if you're able to share it, I would love to hear the Walmart story. You said no to Walmart twice.
Sure. So it's like, so they approached me, is it like last year, the year before? And initially I was like looking at it, and I was like, oh, and then a second time, and I said, you know what? They don't align with my values. And that's where the reason. So yeah, Walmart looks great, but I can sell like a larger scale. I can be in a better financial place. But I was thinking to myself, as an HR too, do I want to build a company that is sustainable, that treats people with respect, that also allow other business to operate and not crushing them, right? So I also purchase my supplies from small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that how Walmart operates is very predatory, kind of like business, how they operate. And it's really crushed small businesses over the years. And that's not who I am. I do believe that there's a space for everyone in the market, because there is, right? And I just don't want to be in a place where they monopolize all of it, and that it doesn't align with who I am as a business owner, and as also as an HR. I want to make sure that when I get employees, that they're treated with respect, they're paid fairly, that I'm also contributing to community. Like myself, I do donate products for fundraisings for nonprofit organizations once or twice a year, depending on who it is, because a lot of people reach out when you have a business. And I'm very intentional as well about what I'm supporting. So for me, I have no problem in donating. So they don't really align with these values. And that's not how I want to do business. Do I want to do volume? No, I want to do quality. I want to be able to show up in spaces that make sense, that, you know, it's community based. They're helping. We're bringing value to your local community or larger community, and not just taking the whole market. And that's the reason why I said no. And people till this day are telling me that's probably the most insane no they ever heard. It's like, why do you not don't want to make money? I'm like, there's money can be made, but your brand, your reputation, and how you build your business. If you want to build it sustainably, you have to have some values with your business, and you can't change your values every day, right? So you got to stick to it, and it's not that easy, but it's the reality. I've said no's to other ones, but we'll stick to that one.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what it is about also being an entrepreneur. Is in business, you have to learn to say no, because not all opportunities will be good opportunities. Because down the road, you got to think yourself 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, how's that going to be perceived? Or what kind of values they have at that business? So when you partner with another business, you got to look at what also their values and what they bring.
Mm-hmm.
If they're opposite of who you are or don't align with yours,
Mm-hmm.
then something you want to consider and think about.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I love that you, that story actually ties back into alignment, because not only do we have to be aligned with ourselves and what we're actually working toward, we've got to make sure everything we invest our resources into is aligned with us. And what's interesting is you talk about how people still to this day tell you, like you're crazy for saying no to Walmart because the money that could be made. But it's like me hearing you say, I said no to Walmart twice. I hear that and I'm like, that's a person I've got to learn more from, because that's the kind of people I want to be surrounded with. That's the kind of people I want to learn from. That's the kind of people I want to grow from. People who don't make the obvious choice, because the obvious choice is, for in a lot of cases, why we as entrepreneurs, as thought leaders, as future innovators don't necessarily fit into normal day-to-day society, because those are people who made the obvious choices in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what serves them, if that's where they find true happiness, great, go for it. But where I've found the most joy and satisfaction in life is not making the obvious choice. And I think that you will undoubtedly, for the rest of your entrepreneurial ventures, I think you always look back on that moment as a moment you're one of the moments you're very most proud of, because you were able to say no to what most people would call the obvious choice. And I think it's going to lead to an even brighter future, because again, yeah, there's a lot of money that could have come in, but if they're misaligned, it would start to feel like, if they start disrupting your supply chain, if they start disrupting your production, if they start disrupting the quality of your own products, it would feel like your whole business had been taken from you. And that would probably be an extremely destructive place to be in. Yeah, you might see the bank account filling up, but at the end of the day, is it worth it if you're sacrificing your own personal value? I would personally say no. And it's awesome that you already had the frame and you'd built the strength from an emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual standpoint to be able to say no to the obvious choice and hold true to your values and your alignment. Yeah. So, Laila, I really appreciate you being here today, doing this with us. Is there anything else you wanted to add or cover or promote for anybody watching?
I would say for anybody out there, if somebody wants to build something, be that one person that that they are in their corner, that believe in them. Just if you just need one person that believes in you, I think you can accomplish a lot. So be that one person, be the leader you wish you had.
I love that. Thank you for being here. Guys, thank you for watching this. This is a tentatively called the Nebula Chat. If you guys have better ideas for names, leave them below in the comments. If you got something out of this episode, then please share whichever community you're in right now that this is shared with. Please share the link of that school community with another person who you think would help so they can see this video, they can learn and grow from it, because we covered so many good topics today. We talked about being in the right environment. We talked about self-care as an entrepreneur. We talked about alignment as an entrepreneur, both with yourself and with the groups you choose to work with. And there's so many powerful episodes that can help drive forward your progress. Thank you guys for being here. If you are in the Orion Collective, this is just a safe social space for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and future innovators to just collaborate, hang out, relate to people in a society where we don't necessarily fit that normal mold. So appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for watching this video, and let's all work to find our place among the stars. Thank you, Laila. Appreciate it.